Welcome to the Rich Thinking Experience, where you can escape the 9 to 5 and live your dream life. Hear from millionaire entrepreneurs from around the world who will give you advice on how to start and grow your own internet business, as well as advise in the areas of sales and marketing, investing, and overall personal development. The Rich Thinking Experience with Rama Siva starts now.
Hello everyone, this is Rama Siva from London. Today it's my great pleasure to be interviewing Vishen Lakhiani, founder and CEO of Mindvalley. He is also the author of The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. Without further ado, let's welcome Vishen to the call. Vishen, hello.
Hi Rama, it's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. What happened? Where were you? What inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, Rama, I could go back to the time I was 14 years old, but basically, in a nutshell, what happened was this. I discovered personal growth at a very, very young age. I was 14 years old, and I was a small-sized, geeky guy with like giant glasses back in the 80s and 90s. And what happened is that my dad was an avid reader of books. As you can see, that's my bookshelf. I'm also an avid reader of books. And I was just browsing through my dad's bookshelf one day at the age of 14, and I discovered a book called The Silva Method. And it was really a book on meditation, not traditional woo-woo Eastern-based meditation. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was a meditation system developed by this guy in Texas, of all places, right? Laredo, Texas. His name was Jose Silva. And that book introduced me to ideas, not just meditation, but creative visualization, goal setting, a whole bunch of other aspects of human consciousness and human performance that I had never learned in school. And so as I started taking those skills on and applying them in my life, I noticed incredible things happening. So one of the things that happened is that, see, when I was a teenager, I was really, really insecure. I had a bad case of acne. So as a teenager, I just assumed I was ugly. I never dated a girl, never had a girlfriend, hardly went out. In school, kids would call me pimple face. And as I was reading this book, I remember Jose Silva was talking about how we can command our mind to influence our body. And he said the skin is the organ in the body that is most influenceable by the human mind. So I would meditate and I would practice great visualization and see my skin clearing up, seeing my pimples, my acne going away. Now I had acne for about 5 years, but when I started this practice, in 5 weeks, I healed my skin. That was my first big win. Now, it didn't come easy, of course. It took me years. That first big win, I realized that there was so much more about business in the world than what we've been trained to know. That started my journey. And so when I guess I was 17 years old when that skin healing happened. And when I was 27, 10 years later, I ended up starting Mindvalley. I was looking to start an education company because I always wanted to do something that could change the world. And Nelson Mandela had said, you want to change the world, change education. And I thought, what better form of education to teach than the human mind? And thus Mindvalley was born. And today we publish some 20 of the world's leading authors in personal growth.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I hope that answers your question.
That's great. So let's get to the nuts of the discussion. What is bending reality, and how and when did you realize that everything was in the mind?
Well, bending reality is simply a term I coined in my book for this idea, this sensation that life flows from you, that you're in total control of everything in your life. Now, whether you're actually bending reality or you're lucky or you're simply someone who perceives yourself as being lucky is irrelevant. It's really a state of mind where you feel like you have control over your circumstances, over your life, over what you're bringing forth in your life. It's a feeling of supreme optimism about the future. And that optimism brings a certain level of confidence in how you act and joy and a spring in your step as you go forth in life. In my book, I talk about how to mentally get to that level. Being an engineer, I look at everything as an algorithm, and I wanted to figure out what is an algorithm that I could apply in my life to be happy, to have bold visions of the future, and to live in flow. And Bending Reality was a chapter in my book that talks about this algorithm.
And what are the components needed for bending reality?
Well, what I suggest in the book is that the ultimate state of human existence is a state in which we have visions pulling us forward, but we are happy in the now. We are happy where we are. In other words, your happiness is not entangled with your goals. Most people entangle the two. So they believe in the if-then model of happiness. If I get this, I will be happy. What I talk about in my book is the idea that happiness itself is rocket fuel towards your goal. And that by learning to hack happiness before pursuing major goals, you magnify your odds of getting to your goal sooner. You know, I realized I really got to get better headphones that actually stick in my ear. These things keep falling off. But that's essentially it. That's essentially what I speak about in my book.
Fantastic. Could you explain more about means goals and end goals?
Okay, means goals and end goals. That's a concept I coined. And it comes from a model of goal setting that I call the 3 most important questions. Basically, the idea is this. It's that society and modern education teaches us to set goals in the wrong way. It teaches us that there's a certain step-ladder approach to life that we have to go through. You get good grades so you can get into a good school, so you can work hard, get good grades, get into a good college, get a good GPA, get out, get a good job, work from 9 to 5, slave for a wage and save so you can someday retire and then travel and see the world, right? Most people have that model of success. But the thing is, many of those are means goals. Because if you ask people, why do you need the good grades? It's always, well, I need the good grades so I can. I need to work hard so I can. I need to save so I can. There's always a so I after that. Well, what if you trace the so I's to the end? What you find is that the end goals, the stuff that really excites us as human beings, are often completely different from what society has told us we need to follow. And the beautiful thing is, many of these end goals are often feelings. An end goal might be waking up every day next to someone you love. An end goal might be being a parent and being able to hold this beautiful new baby that you brought into the world. An end goal might be completing a book you always dreamed of writing, not for some check or advance, but for the sake of completing a book. An end goal might be working in a beautiful workspace with people you love to see every day. But most people don't write these as their goals. And so the 3 most important questions is a goal-setting methodology I developed that gets people to forget the means goals, to shut off that aspect of their brain that society programmed, and to instead go for what goals really speak to their heart, what goals really make them sing with joy when they think about it. You see, there was a famous essay written in 1953 by the great novelist Hunter S. Thompson. Actually, it wasn't an essay, it was a letter he penned to a friend. A friend wrote to him and asked Hunter for advice on life. And Hunter said something really profound. He said that the problem with the world today is that we make ourselves conform to goals. But these goals that we're conforming to, they are bullshit. They are society's symbols of success. Instead, Hunter suggests, we should make goals conform to us. And when you learn to do that, you're tapping into that aspect of yourself that's all-knowing, that's connected to your soul, that helps guide you towards your end goals. So my goal list looks very different from other people. My goal list doesn't have the amount of money in my bank account, because that is something that really, is a means to an end. My goal list is being able to check off the idea of being able to wake up every day in a crowded bed with my wife and my kids all piled on around me. Is being able to live in a foreign city for a month every single year, just for the sake of being able to do that with my entire family. It's to be able to work in a job that I really, really, really love and can't wait to get to every day. So when you pursue end goals, what happens is that you stop postponing happiness, and it's as if your mind reorients itself to guide you to the most optimal path for these end goals, versus the slow slog and winding unnecessarily complex path of the culturescape, which pushes you towards means to an end.
Thank you for sharing that, Vishen. So how did you manage to write end goal of traveling to exotic locations and staying in 5-star hotels and end up starting A-Fest? Could you explain what steps,
Well,
processes you did to put this manifestation into practice?
Well, I really asked myself what made me happy, right? And what made me happy in terms of end goals. You see, all end goals fall into 3 buckets. And so if you want to find out what your end goals are, you ask yourself these 3 questions. The first question is, what experiences do I want in my life? When I actually asked that question to myself, what I found is that the experiences in the world that really made me happy were being able to explore exotic locations on the planet. We're having amazing friends next to me. We're learning and growing. We're being able to travel with my kids. But that's question 1. Now, question 2 is, how do you want to grow? I believe all of us as souls are here and for 2 purposes. One is growth, and the second is to give back. And so if we are a soul having a human experience, I believe one of the reasons for our soul to be here is to learn and grow. So your second list of end goals is really, how do you want to grow? And I put that down. I wanted to master the art of amazing relationships. I wanted to learn to live aligned with my mission. I wanted to be able to have a body that ages slowly and is perpetually fit. I wrote all of these down. These are all the ways I wanted to grow. I wanted to learn how to train myself to run a marathon. I wanted to learn speed reading. Now, there's a third bucket. After you've answered the experiences you want and how you want to learn, the third bucket is, how would you give back to the world? Because of course, giving back is an end goal, because contribution is one of the surest paths to happiness. Now, as you start making this list for yourself, you start noticing patterns. And my pattern was, well, look, I want to travel, I want to learn, and I want to give back. I want to be able to donate money to charities that I liked. And somehow, I guess, what happened is that these goals converged into an idea, and that idea is A-Fest. A-Fest is a festival that I put on every 6 months. It happens in a different location around the world. Thousands of people apply. It's a curated community, and we bring in the world's best speakers. So it's like TED Talks, but happening in a paradise location. We pick a different city. We just completed one in Mexico. Then we are going to Cancun, and then potentially Portugal or Panama. And all these amazing speakers come down to train. And at the same time, this curated community, they've become like some of my closest friends in the world. And so I managed to combine all of these things, the friendship, the travel, the learning, and the giving back. We give away about half our profits every year to charities I really care about, such as the X Prize Foundation. But remember, it all started because I did this exercise. See, when you do this exercise, it gets you to think outside the box. Identify goals and visions for your life that are truly unique, but that truly appeal to your life, to what you want to create as the masterpiece of your life, that original masterpiece of your life. So that's how A-Fest started. It was simply the evolution of my end goals coming together into one giant masterpiece.
Excellent, excellent. In your book, you mentioned that you took a course in meditation that improved your performance in sales. Could you explain more about what you did to get into the right state before making those phone calls?
Well, one of the things is being able to, when I meditate, I do a lot of meditation based on compassion practices. So for example, I see myself connected to all life, all human beings. Something interesting happens when you do this. You actually become a more compassionate person. It increases your levels of loving kindness. This is being documented by science. What I found is that I could connect with people on the phone really easily because I had really high empathy, really high levels of connection, heart rather. Now this was new to me because being an engineer, being a very left-brained programmer, coder, I was not used to connecting with people. I didn't have many friends. I never dated anyone until I was 23 years old. I'm one of those people who might even possibly be on the spectrum. I'm just very left-brained. And so this gave me a way to feel people, and connect with people in a way that I could never do so with just my regular, rational, logical mind. And it made me a powerhouse when it came to my company. And so I remember within 4 months of taking that meditation class, I ended up getting promoted 3 times. And that was another thing that validated my interest in personal growth.
Great. And how and why does meditation, visualization work?
Well, until 2015, there are 1,400 studies on the benefits of meditation. Do we really know why it works? Well, we can say that it changes certain levels of brain chemistry. Science is now showing that it strengthens certain aspects of the brain. But to be honest, no one really knows why it works. No one can explain completely where all of these benefits are come from. There are studies show that meditation increases your levels of empathy, studies that show that meditation improves your heart health, studies that show that meditation slows down aging. Now we can say, of course, meditation slows down aging because when we meditate, our telomere length extends, and telomeres are this portion of your cell, and it's like if you think of your shoelace, you know how shoelaces have these little plastic nibs at the end? So certain parts of our cells have these strings called telomeres, and they have these little things at their end. And when you age, those things shrink. When you meditate, those things become longer. And so there's scientific evidence that meditation increases longevity. But we don't know why it becomes longer. We just know that there's a correlation. So I think science is still trying to figure this out. But think of it this way, right? We don't have to directly know how something works to use it. For most of human civilization, we had no idea what the sun was, but we could still use the sun for heat, for warmth, for navigation, to tell the time of day. But it was only recently that we figured out that the sun is a giant thermonucleic reaction in the sky. It's a star. And so we don't know how meditation works, but we know that there are about 1,400 studies that show how it changes different aspects of your life favorably.
Great. And could you explain the difference between meditation and visualization?
It's very simple. Meditation is a transcendent practice. It is the act of going within. There are many different forms of meditation, but they tend to fall into 2 buckets. There is passive meditation, like breathing in, paying attention to your breath. And then there's active meditation. Active meditation is where you're in a relaxed state, but you're using your mind to solve a problem. Now, it is often during active meditation that one might practice creative visualization. This is where you see your goals, you see visions of your life. You imagine it, often say on an imaginary screen in front of you. And studies show that visualization helps with everything from muscle growth to athletic performance to helping people move more rapidly towards goals.
Great. And how do you use visualization to improve the quality of your life?
Well, I created a meditation called the 6-phase meditation. You can Google it online. It's all over the web. Millions of people use it. It's on Ombana app, which is one of the apps my company creates. So just Google 6-phase meditation, and it's literally everywhere. You'll find it on the App Store. You'll find it on Google. The app is called Ombana, Omvana.
Great. And could you share any limiting beliefs you have had and how you changed them?
Limiting beliefs I've had? Well, there have been so many. Change for limiting beliefs is often less something that occurs instantaneously unless you have like a really good hypnotherapist, but it's often true what one calls Satori moments, moments of awakening, right? And Satori moments are those eureka moments, these realizations that you get, and your life never goes back to the more limited way it was before because your very vision of the world changes. I think meditation helps create Satori moments. It helps create moments of awakening. There have been many instances where I'm meditating, and I suddenly get this grand realization. It may be the feeling that I needed to forgive someone in my past whom I thought wronged me. While meditating, I suddenly see and feel why they did what they did, and seeing it from their point of view shifts you. So many of my limiting beliefs, I believe, I've been able to erase over time. And I've been able to do that through a steady daily meditation practice, about half an hour every single day.
That leads on to my next question, what are your daily habits?
Well, if you follow me on Facebook, I share a lot of this stuff, and I recently released a video. It's somewhere on facebook.com/Vishen, where I talk about my daily habits. It's meditation, it's minimum effective dose exercise, and it's nutritional fueling. It's fueling my body with certain superfoods every single morning, and then I'm right out to work.
And how long does it take you from start to end?
1 hour every single day.
Fantastic. And how are you disciplined to stick to your habits? Do you have reminders popping up every minute to annoy you to complete a habit?
No. Because they are so pleasurable in terms of the feeling it gives me. Why would I not do it? I meditate not because I have to, but because when I come out of that meditation, I feel so amazing. I exercise because I love the way my body feels. I'm fitter at 40 than I was at 25. Mm-hmm. I eat a healthy breakfast, which is basically a particular kind of super fuel shake because of the energy and how delicious it tastes, but how I feel hours after taking it when my mind is in total clarity. And so I do this not because I need to. I do this because I can't. I just love life too much. And I've seen how these habits magnify the quality of my life.
Great. How do you stay in the state of bliss, happiness? What do you do?
Well, Rama, again, one of the things I do is the 6-phase meditation. It's designed to put you in positive, optimistic, happier states of mind. So if people Google the 6-phase meditation, it's right there. Okay.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome. The 10 laws you mentioned in your book, what's the most important?
There is no most important. Rather, these laws are stages. Depending on where you are in your personal growth, a different law will apply to you.
Great. And you have interviewed a lot of inspirational people. What's the most important one you have heard? Quote you have heard?
I don't think there's any one most important quote or any one most important person. Rather, it's honestly, the key insights happen when multiple people say the same thing, when multiple people challenge your belief about the world. Recently, what happened is I started noticing that many of the people I was interviewing over a period were men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who were remarkably fit, right? And I realized how much aging is a state of mind. And that put me on a health binge because I was 40 and I was healthy, but I wasn't super healthy. And now I'm committed to being as fit and healthy as I can be as I age. And so these insights often come when multiple people say them. And you start seeing a dominant pattern across many extraordinary minds. So fantastic. I hope these questions help you and your audience in some way.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks so much for your time, Vishen. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure we'll connect again.
Thank you, Rama, and thank you, all of you, for listening.
Cheers. Bye for now.